listening to the Voices of the Voiceless podcast with your hosts, Brad, Shepard, and Jonathan Fisher.
I'm searching for love, Brad's searching for optimism, and we're both searching for good wrestling.
Yeah, that's whatever.
I mean, I don't know what it is. None of what I say matters.
You can never avoid the voices of the voiceless.
Take on, freedom heart, take on.
And welcome back to the 26th edition of the Voices of the Voiceless podcast. Let's just get right into it. Yeah, this week sucks. It sucks a lot.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week for wrestling fans.
Interesting. God damn, it's been horrible. Where have you been? Oh yeah, you're a heartless bastard. I forgot. I'm waiting.
No, I have a heart. I have a heart. What can I say? That's the secret.
Did you cry? Did you cry? I gotta ask, because I shed a tear or two.
I think that's a little personal. I think that's none of your goddamn business, pal.
Well, I got... You know what? All right, that's fine. Next time we're walking...
I did.
Again,
No,
I was gonna say, well, next time I'm walking next to you, I'm not gonna bump you and pretend to hug you. I'll also get suspended. Oh, there's two headlines and one joke. Yeah, everybody.
Well, we've just covered our entire show. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Did you did shed a tear though? Because I know I did. That was so sad.
No, I really did. Yeah, it was probably one of the most emotional moments, and we'll talk about it more at depth a little bit later in the show. But it was one of the most emotional moments in wrestling for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where you hate to see it, and how do you make it feel better? I mean, how do you make yourself feel better after that? Watch the network? Probably. I mean, there's some YouTube stuff going on, but yeah, for those of you who live under a rock, and if you don't know this already, oh, wow, I feel bad for you. Daniel Bryan announced his retirement on Monday Night Raw, and somebody did time the retirement speech. It was 35 minutes long. Raw ran to 11:29. I think that was last count, 11:29. And there was a few minutes on the network after that as well. So before we get into that, because we're going to talk about that a lot, we have a What the Fuck tweet of the week, which I will go in depth on my new column tomorrow on SEScoops.com. Brad, I'll hit the music this time. Love that music. I love it to death. I really do.
Oh, you didn't know?
What
the fuck?
I hate him so much. What a fucking asshole.
It's brought to you by Bryan James, a.k.a. Road Dogg Jesse James from the new WWE. You can find him on Twitter at WWE Road Dogg with 2 G's. And this is about a couple of controversial statements that Bryan James made on Twitter. Now, if you aren't aware, he's a producer for WWE and also the head writer of SmackDown. And he made some comments last week, actually not long after we recorded last week's podcast, to some fans who were questioning the booking in WWE. And I have the tweets and I'm going to read them. And then, John, I'd like your reaction. And I know you have a column coming.
I do.
And I just want to get an idea of your thoughts. Here we go. I'll let the comments speak for themselves. Fight Owens, fight loses again. The heel side is a shambles, but you actually have something with at Road Dogg. Bryan James says, wins and losses don't count. It's about character, and he's a winner. it goes on. The fan says, you don't mean that. But I realize they aren't everything. Just doesn't seem wise with you, what you have at your disposal at present. So in other words, the fan saying, hey, you don't have a lot of top heels. Well, maybe you have one if you include Triple H. You kind of need to build these guys up. So you don't have a lot of leeway to do this stuff. And so Bryan responds, of course I mean that. It's not real competition, so how can they count? You and I just see it differently, I guess. All good. Someone else says, how does Bullet Bob feel about this view? Now, Bullet Bob is Bullet Bob Armstrong, his father, another big name in the wrestling business. Bryan responds, he's the one who taught me. I didn't win a lot of matches, but I came out and said, oh, you didn't know? And they bought merch. By the way, that's total bullshit because they won the tag team championships a ton of times, and they didn't lose a ton of matches. And then a fellow writer says, with all due respect, people pay to see Conor McGregor. Winning matters. People don't pay for Sam Stout. So it is true.
Love that.
So Bryan responds with, we're talking about apples and oranges, though. Two completely different things. One's real and one's character-based. And so someone else says, well, if none of this matters, why should I care? Why should I even bother watching? Bryan says, because you like being entertained, I guess. That's why I watch TV shows. Agree to disagree. And another fan says, of course, just your viewpoint, thus the viewpoint of the company, worries me. Bryan says, don't be worried. Last year was the most profitable year on record, so I feel like it's all going to be okay. Wow. Your thoughts on that?
I want your thoughts first. I do.
You know, my thoughts are that this is fucking one of the dumbest things I've ever heard out of someone in charge in WWE. And that's my thoughts in a brief nutshell. If it didn't matter, I'll tell you what, if wins and losses don't matter, when John Cena returns, you can let him know that he will be losing 40 matches in a row. And then I want you to watch the reaction he gets from the crowd and his merchandise sales and everything that goes along with it, and see if it's still at the same levels or greater as it was when he was a winner. Because people like winners. And people can't stay invested in someone who is a loser over and over and over. There's a reason we have titles in professional wrestling. Those are for the winners. Those are for the people who get more money because they are in high-profile matches. They have bigger contracts to perform. The John Cena's, the Brock Lesnar's. So while wins and losses isn't the ultimate, there are exceptions within winning and losing where sometimes some losing can be okay. To say it doesn't matter or it's not one of the most important things in wrestling is fucking bullshit. You tell me Hulk Hogan's getting over and revolutionizing this business in the 80s as a loser? You think Bruno's doing that as a loser? Do you think Stone Cold is going to change the world with the Attitude Era as a loser?
The Rock.
The Rock?
John Cena.
Come on.
Batista,
Come on.
Batista,
Who could even believe that?
I think I don't understand where Road Dogg comes off because, well, yeah, you're right. He's a hypocrite. He won a lot. To say he didn't win is an absolute lie. He's lying to our faces. Three names actually. Two names for one that were succeeding at the same time. When The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin were dominating in the 1990s, and that led into the Attitude Era, did they trade losses with random wrestlers each week? As soon as Chris Jericho came into the company, he was extremely popular. Interrupted The Rock on his debut on Raw. He didn't get pushed down to the mid card. Did they book him to lose a match or two a month? Triple H was the face of the ruthless aggression era. He didn't lose every other week. The Undertaker. They built a gimmick around him called the Streak. And
That's kind of a big one.
And yeah, and I'll get that, we'll get to that more when I let everyone hear my interview with a wrestling historian himself, Dean I. M. Petro, in just a little bit. Point is, Brock Lesnar's triumph, his road to glory, the last few years were because of the one behind the one and 21-1. That's wins and losses, is it not? So when Road Dogg, I hope he was drunk, which means he fell off the wagon, and I'm sorry for that. If he truly means that wins and losses don't matter, then he's not watching the show. He's not writing the show. He's pretending he is and having a good time in fairyland, because that is the most ludicrous statement I've ever heard a WWE official say in my life. Absolutely.
And it's like not only does he say it, but then, spoiler alert, on SmackDown, AJ Styles loses clean to Chris Jericho.
I didn't know that. I'm not watching. I'm not watching anymore. So, for what reason? Why didn't?
Because AJ won last time, so now Chris Jericho has to win, so they can keep up the 50-50 booking. That's a great way to give a new guy momentum, huh?
In a few months ago, Jim Ross, and this has been his big critique of World Wrestling Entertainment for a while now. It's been well documented. He put in his blog, and this was when Titus and Stardust were feuding for a little bit. Well, their so-called feud, it really never amounted to anything. He said, Titus O'Neil seems to be evolving, but then he gets beat up after getting his win versus Stardust, which is a great example of non-vertical 50-50 booking. That helps who? You're right. Kevin Owens beats Cena on his very first night. He loses the next week. Why? It's about the story, right? Road Dogg, it's about building people up, right, Road Dogg? It's about the story, right, Road Dogg? You're absolutely wrong. And I don't want to call you an idiot, because obviously you're not, because you're in a high-profile job doing a high-profile thing for people that care about what they want to watch. So you're not stupid. I can honestly say that. But what you said is misguided, illogical, and it's completely wrong. It's just wrong. And I don't care who says it. We don't go see Sam Stout for UFC. We go see Conor McGregor. Yeah, wins matter more there, but if wrestling wants to be even close to being legitimate or even in that conversation, then, nut up and realize that Seth Rollins can't get pinned by Heath Slater at all. That's completely irrational thinking.
Imagine Ronda Rousey revolutionizing the UFC and sports and entertainment as a loser.
Can't.
She can't. And don't tell me it's not comparable, because in the fiction fan world of professional wrestling, you can build a star and you can build a worked fight that people will pay to see. And it's the same thing. People want to see winners, and people want to see winners fight each other, whether it's choreographed or not. That's what they want to see. And you can't do that with losers.
We could do a whole podcast on examples of how Road Dogg is completely incorrect. When CM Punk beat Cena at Money in the Bank 2011, he didn't lose and build the story. He won and built the story. He won a number one contenders match to continue the story. He won minute matches from his number one contenders match in the triple threat to his fight with Cena at Money in the Bank. He didn't lose. If he would have lost, well, that would have been, the guy had a bad night. No, it's not. That would have made him look weak. Whenever people were telling me, Bray's going to win. Bray looks strong. Bray, it makes sense. How does it fucking make sense when he keeps losing? Now he's on a winning streak. Too little too late, guys. You built him to lose so much, and then you want him to be champion, and you think we're going to take him seriously. That's not how it works.
The entire premise of WrestleMania 3, which was enormous, was Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, and Andre in storyline hadn't been defeated in 15 years. And we were told that over and over. Here's this big giant challenging the babyface superstar, and this guy, he hasn't been beaten in 15 years. And Hulk beats him. It's a huge deal. Now, why would they emphasize that if wins didn't matter?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the two biggest examples you just named, so now three, you named one of them. The Undertaker streak, like, for fuck's sake. He's not that naive and thick-headed, is he? Road Dogg, that is. It was called the streak. It was called the streak. I'm talking to myself now. And the night that MSG went silent, Brad, I don't know how old you were then, but I know you were alive. I think that is. I don't want to call you old. You know that's not what I like to do.
I'm mildly old.
No, you're all right. You're all right. So it's like you're sick. You're all right.
I'm all right. I'm just this little sick old guy over here in the corner. He's all right, you know.
When 45 years ago, so no, you weren't alive. I know that.
No, I am not 45. I am not.
45 years ago. Now it's over 45 years. The anniversary was on January 18th. MSG went silent, and I'm going to read a brief section of Mark Madden's column a few weeks ago called "The Night the Garden Went Silent," and I quote, 45 years ago today, Madison Square Garden fell silent. It was the most shocking event in WWE history and arguably the most shocking event in the history of that iconic building. Bruno Sammartino lost the WWF Championship to Ivan Koloff, unquote. Brad, how long did Bruno hold the title for?
It was like 8 years, I believe.
And did he lose during that time?
No.
Okay. Why was it so shocking that Koloff beat Sammartino in 48 seconds?
It's so shocking because here's a guy with a history of winning. And his opponent comes in and does something that hasn't been done yet and does it actually in a very quick manner. It was stunning. It created a moment. And it did that because wins and losses matter.
Absolutely. I thought of one more example. Who is the most over wrestler in WCW history?
Well, geez. There's a Goldberg.
Single star. By himself. No NWO, no nothing. No outsiders.
Well, Hulk Hogan in his heel run.
You knew where I was going with it, though. Yeah, you knew where I was going with that. Sorry. One of the most over acts in the WCW history. Goldberg. Why?
Yeah.
Because he didn't fucking lose. Do you think Goldberg would have been so hot that if he lost once a month? Absolutely not. I don't know. It's just completely ridiculous. And
in bringing up Hogan with that is also a great point because here you had a guy who's a huge star who, he didn't lose a lot. You had Goldberg who never lost. You put them together to put Goldberg over, and it mattered because wins and losses matter.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll expect Reigns to lose a lot when he beats Triple H at WrestleMania, and after that happens, we'll see how many times he actually loses from them until SummerSlam or even Royal Rumble or maybe even the next year. Because if Reigns goes on a huge winning streak, then they've completely, at least Road Dogg has completely went against what he said and backed up multiple times. He's just a fucking liar. I'm sorry, he's a liar and he's irrational and he's wrong. He's just dead wrong. But
and the thing is, John, if he can't be honest with the fans, because he can't possibly be that stupid. He's towing the company line, and if you can't be honest with them about it, just don't engage them.
Yeah.
Don't say it to begin with.
You're right. And since this is such a huge topic, we felt that, getting another opinion would be beneficial. So I went out, and a very good friend of mine who works at the TV station that I work at, his name is Dean I.M. Petro. He's been watching wrestling for over 35 years. So I would say he has a lot of clout. He's been watching wrestling probably nearly as long as Road Dogg has. So maybe knowledge goes hand in hand here. But yeah, I sat down with Dean I.M. Petro, the wrestling historian himself, to talk about this little sentiment that Road Dogg graced the world with. Here it is. So I'm sitting here with Dean I.M. Petro, wrestling historian from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, the big conversation that a lot of wrestling fans are into right now is the fact that the Road Dogg, Jesse James, has told the world, essentially, that wins and losses just don't matter. Now, that was usually a fan's theory because of what happens on the shows, but this is the first time that a WWE official, the lead writer of SmackDown, has said that and has even come close to it being true. Your thoughts, since you have seen the business, been around the business for over 30 years.
That is one of the most absurd things that I have ever heard in my life. And first of all, I'd like to see how the Road Dogg, Jesse James, might have felt if him and his little DX buddies were 500 in their matches. I think they won a lot more than they lost. And wow, they were positioned big. They were positioned as main event talent because they had more wins than losses. You and I, John, have talked about wins and losses and how they should matter in booking. There's no question that they should matter. If you're telling a story, and your story, whether Vince likes it or whether Road Dogg likes it or not, is wrestling. That is your main focus. World Wrestling Entertainment. And you cannot call them wrestlers. If you want to call them superstars, fine. You're still presenting a program where you have champions and you have rivalries instead of feuds, and wins and losses do matter. If you take, put it to you this way, if you're going to see a main event match, if you're going to see two teams in the Super Bowl, would you rather see a team that's 15-1 taking on a team that was 12-4? Or would you rather see two teams that were 8-8 going against each other?
I'd say it's pretty obvious.
Exactly. You want to see the best of the best fighting for a championship. How am I supposed to believe that 8-8 team is a champion? Okay. Now, of course, in the NFL, that could happen if a team gets on a run. But guess what that means if they go on a run? It means they're winning. Okay. And they didn't lose along the way. It's not that someone can't lose. Okay. Wrestlers have to win and lose. The whole pattern back in the days of the 3WF was, you'd have the feud, you'd have the bad guy get over on the good guy. You may even have disqualification wins and losses. But at the end of the day, in the blow-off, there was a clear-cut victor. And those things mattered in terms of who was in the upper card and who was in the mid card. SD Jones, okay, back in the day, in the 80s, he's equivalent to maybe a Tyler Breeze or a Heath Slater. Well, SD didn't win very many matches, but he was a decent enough wrestler that people bought into it that it was okay. Well, he beat SD Jones, so that's okay, and that helped them climb the ladder. He wasn't trading wins with SD Jones, keeping everybody at 500 with wins and losses don't matter. I don't understand the booking. Why should I care about someone if they lose half the time? Why should I believe them as a title contender?
And that's what one of the big arguments from my perspective was for the Royal Rumble. A lot of people wanted Bray Wyatt to win, a lot of people close to you and I. And when I said, who has Bray beaten? Mm-hmm. And the supporters, mainly one that we know very well, said, doesn't matter. He's Bray Wyatt. He's a legitimate force to be reckoned with. That's fine. And when you take out Lesnar in a cheap way, that kind of builds you up a little bit. But if you don't have any wins to back it up, hell, he was on a 7 pay-per-view losing streak. Mm-hmm. Losing to the Undertaker is one thing. That's the Undertaker at WrestleMania. That was a guaranteed win, and no one's ever going to complain.
No. That was not a guaranteed win. Because the other thing that the Fed is not doing by keeping everybody at 500 is they're not building that next big star. They did it with John Cena. John Cena gets far too many wins. Okay, he's like the only one who does.
So did Triple H when he was on his roll.
Oh,
In the
absolutely.
mid-2000s, same thing.
Yes, but nepotism married the boss's wife. Anyway, no, Triple H was the real deal, though. I mean, he could perform, he could go in the ring, whether he married the boss's wife or not. Actually, whether it did or didn't have anything to do with it doesn't matter. He had the goods. Truth be told, going on Triple H, one of the biggest things that shocked me was the 3 stages of hell match between Triple H and Steve Austin. When Triple H won that, I was like, whoa, because it was a big deal. Why? Not because Triple H and Austin were trading wins left and right. It was a big deal because Austin was main event. Austin beats everybody just about. So when Austin lost, it was a big deal. It helped create Triple H. It helped elevate Triple H to be a megastar by beating someone who had a lot more wins than losses. And that's how you build it. You need your top core of guys who don't lose a lot. Roddy Piper never lost. So if you beat Roddy Piper, that's a damn big deal.
Well, I think the perfect example, and we'll go on to WrestleMania in a little bit, the night that MSG went silent. Imagine if San Martino didn't hold the title and didn't lose for over 2,000 days. Imagine if he was, trading wins and losses, a non-title loss here, a non-title loss there. The care factor would have been at an all-time low.
Absolutely nothing. It would have been nothing. Hulk Hogan, you're talking about wins and losses. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, what was that sold on?
The fact that no one could beat Andre.
Andre the Giant never lost. Hulk Hogan, 3 years as champion, no one's beaten him. It wasn't. They traded wins and losses on Raw. Well, there's no Raw then, but on, primetime wrestling for, 6 weeks. There was none of that. It was, wow, these guys are the top of, they're the best at who they are. We've got to see that main event because the best is going against the best, and you know it in your storytelling by wins and losses. We know, Road Dogg, that this isn't legit wins and losses. We're not stupid, okay? We know that. But when you're telling a story, you need to have your... First of all, they got out of the game of having their end game at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That should be planned, and I understand injuries happen, and fan support and waning is going to happen. But if you've got your core planned, you can build those guys up. If you want Bray Wyatt to be believable, he needs to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. The streak was over. The streak was over. There was nothing to gain for Undertaker in that win. Nothing.
Except so-called redemption from his loss the year before.
But then that should have been Brock Lesnar,
Yeah.
and not a year later. Okay? That should have been Undertaker putting over, making Bray Wyatt a star with a win, an important win. That would have built Bray Wyatt. And then you can have him beating just about everybody. And it's believable. All of a sudden, he's a main event threat. All of a sudden, he is in the main event, and he's believable in the main event. The Shield didn't lose very much, did they?
No, not at all.
And they were big time.
They beat Evolution twice.
Wow. They beat him. That wasn't 500, was it?
No. Well, and this is clearly a Vince McMahon call, simply because if you watch NXT, I know you're a very busy man and you can't. NXT wins and losses matter, in a nutshell, every single episode. Whether in the women's division, tag team, or the men's division. Wins actually matter. Triple H is the lead of that, and clearly he's changing the game. No pun intended. Vince, on the big time on the show, he's leading that charge. And whether people like it or not, Jesse James is saying what is said in that boardroom, not just what he thinks.
This is true. The only time wins and losses don't matter is if you're a heel champion. And I'll give you the Honky Tonk Man as an example. Honky Tonk Man never beat anybody, and he was the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was a chicken-ass heel gimmick. That was the gimmick. So in actuality, the losses mattered. It wasn't that he needed the wins. It was like, man, this dude keeps losing. He's still champion, and people get mad, and they care. Yeah. Wins and losses don't matter. Don't matter, Road Dogg. Let me see if this phrase grabs you. I am the one behind the one in 21-1. Wins and losses don't matter. the whole Brock Lesnar freight train that has stormed through the WWE has been predicated on the number one, which was Undertaker's loss. The streak was the biggest story in WrestleMania for 10 years running because of a one.
Oh, Brad, so, thanks a lot, Dean. I really appreciate your time. I think what he said made sense. The Undertaker theory, Goldberg, San Martino, Hogan. I think it really goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what we've been talking about, and it's no coincidence that that we all have the same thought on this. And maybe it's not us. Maybe it's him. Maybe he's the one who doesn't get it. What's scary to me though is he's Vince's right hand man. He's running SmackDown, and that's the way he feels, and that's not good for a lot of the talent.
So that's why SmackDown sucks. And you would think it would have gotten better when they went to the USA Network, got Mauro Ranallo, who's doing an amazing job. But why did AJ Styles lose? That is so stupid on so many levels.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't understand it. And I guess it's the classic 50-50 booking. It's okay. Styles wins. Jericho's going to win. Now they're probably going to have the match, the rubber match at Fastlane, and hopefully Styles wins and it just ends there. We can only hope.
I mean, I don't know. I would like a reason to watch SmackDown. Give me a fucking reason to watch SmackDown. Don't do this bullshit.
The commentary is great.
It's great.
It's the booking that's hard to watch.
Mauro and Jerry are fantastic together. At least I think so.
No, they are.
But yeah, it's just one of those things, man. Just one of those things. So moving on to Monday Night Raw, and yeah, this is where it got sad. This is where it got sad real fast. Earlier in the day, we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's just do the hit or miss before we get into Daniel Bryan. All right, so hit or miss, Brad. I'll do it this week. Dean, Brock, and Roman. I'm confused at this point. I'm just flat out confused because now I don't know what they want, who they want, and who they want to do what with.
Well, that's, I guess, a good thing. I don't know. They'd have to really have a change of heart to change things. But I like how they're teasing the Brock and Ambrose, and man, I would prefer that as a WrestleMania match far over anything like with Bray Wyatt or Strowman or anybody else. I think that could be a really intriguing WrestleMania match. Was pretty good overall. I really enjoyed the Dean and Brock stuff for the most part. Really, the big complaint I had there at the end was he finally gets his revenge, so to speak, and that's what you want. You want the babyface. They say they're going to do something, and they do it. A lot of times that's not happening. It did here. That's great. But if he's going to be the lunatic fringe, don't just give him the low blow. Give him the low blow and then nail him with your finisher and put that over as well.
Yeah.
Really stick it to him. So I felt like just a little thing, they could have done that. The Roman thing was kind of eye-rolling, how he had to come out and be the distraction, but whatever.
Yeah, I
overall enjoyed it, though.
I loved – I mirror what you said. I loved Dean and getting him Brock's face. I wish they would have F5. He would have F5'd him 5 times total just to keep getting up and selling it more. Because then it's like the whole Matt Hardy will never die gimmick, but Matt Hardy's a douchebag. But, Dean Ambrose, just keep on going, I think would have made it a lot better segment. And Stephanie McMahon, her jabs at Dean, like focusing towards Roman being his big brother and Dean being his bitch, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, I think it's leading to a heel turn.
I do too. On who's that?
I mean, probably Dean.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think they want to turn Roman, but who knows? Dean's obviously the more likely option. But they don't have any top heels. They have to do something. And so I think that's the plan. They're finally starting to plant the seeds. And they kind of teased this last year, at the end of last year, and didn't do it. But here we go again. So I do expect it to happen this time.
Yeah,
But I thought the segment was good. I really liked the Ambrose promo where he is calling out Brock and just really punking him out. That was really
I
good
do too.
stuff on the mic.
No, I do
mean,
too.
it's so much better than what Roman has done on the mic.
Isn't it funny? Roman's barely talked in the past few weeks.
He's barely. They're like hiding him, dude. They're protecting him and hiding him almost. It's becoming obvious, and yeah, they should turn him heel. But yeah, I don't know. He's just being outshined. Like the second time he came out, he didn't really get a reaction. I mean, it
wasn't a
Brock got
sizable one.
No, I mean, Brock got the biggest reaction. Naturally, he's booked the best, and he's a part-time attraction, so he's not oversaturated on TV. But even though they've kind of worn off on that a bit with as much as they're bringing him in lately, but Dean is getting a bigger reaction than Roman most of the time.
I would say all the time.
Yeah, probably
all the time. But no, I really did like it. Roman doesn't have to come out there. That's just dumb. It's dumb. There's no point. And the low blow.
The thing about it too was like the low blow, like you said, that increased. I mean, the whole thing increased the babyface sympathy for Ambrose with the audience. It was almost like Stone Cold-esque when Bret Hart had him in the sharpshooter and he wouldn't give up, and he passed out, and it was kind of like that moment, and it was really good stuff, and that's going to make the fans really like Dean. But that's also probably not good for Roman.
I know. Well, I think it's different because at least at least Batista and Randy Orton were established veteran legends. I consider them legends at this point. I think they're they have their status, and people would have watched that WrestleMania match anyway, just because it's Batista and Randy Orton. But Roman Reigns isn't Randy Orton or Batista level. He's been in the company for 3 years. All right. Orton and Batista have been in the company for going on 10, 11, 12. So it's a different dynamic. So they might have to change it. They might have to, but we'll see. We're going to see eventually. And I hate the low blow. I think that's just being a pussy. It just is. It's being a pussy. Anywho, the Dudley Boys heel turn. What did you think? I thought this was finally the right move for them.
Yeah, finally someone cares about the Dudley Boys again for the first time in months. That's how I felt.
I bet you it's the Road Dogg.
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh, we didn't know that wins and losses didn't matter, so technically he's right.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was exactly what they needed to gain some momentum. Stale as 12-year-old bread, and nobody's cared about him. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I didn't conceptually like the match itself, because why would you have 4 baby faces against 3 heels? That's like a psychology fail in wrestling.
Yep.
You would want the heels to outdo the baby faces so they have the sympathy, but outside of that, I mean, I like the move itself, but it's like, is it really a heel turn if you get cheered by beating up the Usos, who are that 12-year-old bred at this point?
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. This Usos are just, man. I mean, I think Naomi's kind of cute, and she's funny and nice. Jimmy Uso's funny on Total Divas. I dig him. I dig him. But oh my gosh, Jay and Jimmy Uso are just fucking boring.
Boring. We don't know anything about them.
Yeah, we
they wear face paint and they do a Samoan war dance, but we don't even know anything about them.
Yeah, it's their cousins, The Rock. So that's we ranted about this a week or so ago. We don't need to go back into it, but the Usos are just—they're there. They're just there.
They're there, and they've got a new move that is annoying me. I got to be honest with you.
What is it?
They've recently started watching a lot of Young Bucks matches, apparently.
Yeah, and then my friend in our group chat says, "You fucking posers."
With this super kick party bullshit, where they are super kicking and double super kicking. Everybody is a non-finisher, and it makes me want to fucking tear my hair out.
Yeah, and you don't have that much hair to begin with.
No, I've got a full head of hair, luckily.
But
But I want to rip it out.
what happened to put the sweet chin music's different than the super kick. Remember that. It's much different.
Yeah, one is actually a move that's beating people. One isn't. I mean,
Yeah, and there's a difference between Jake the Snake's DDT and everyone else's. Big difference.
Boy.
Big difference.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
Me neither. I think that's stupid. Leave the super kick to Shawn Michaels and let it alone. Honestly, give it to someone and use it as a finisher. Ziggler, Owens, they can do it a damn well time. Fucking what did I just say? They can do it very well. They can do it very well. So let it be a finisher, damn it. Even Luke Harper can do a great one. I don't care. Somebody. Just fucking someone. All right. Dolph Ziggler versus Kevin Owens. Now, I have a tweet that I need to pull from the archives here. Breaking news. Vince discovers Rey Mysterio isn't a kid. He's suspended. Wouldn't you know it? That comes courtesy from the Fans Podcast, by the way. I don't want to take credit for anything. I gotta find.
Yeah, they also took off his mask and discovered he's Mexican, and he's called Donald Trump to deport him.
All right, so I gotta find this tweet because it was about the women's match, but it can ring in the same ring true for the Owens Ziggler feud too. So this is after Tamina pinned Becky, which don't get me fucking started. Tamina pins Becky. All right. Next week, Sasha will pin Naomi. 50-50 booking. And, well, it's going to happen. And same thing goes for Ambrose and Owens. Or, I'm sorry, Ziggler and Owens, whatever the fuck. Same thing's going to happen. I don't know. I think it's stupid. Yeah, Owens is going to win next week. And Dolph Ziggler cheated. Is he a heel now?
Yeah, the whole thing is just, I'm over it. I'm ready to move on. They're having good matches, but it's like, who really cares? Because the booking of the matches is so bad. I mean, Kevin Owens lose to Kalisto and then Dolph Ziggler twice, all within a week's time. And Dolph wins here on Raw by cheating, and he's supposed to be the face. The whole thing is just a mess. It's a mess. And it's just, it's going to be another 50-50 booking scenario that leads to Fastlane, and then we just hope it dies a miserable, quick death.
You're right. That's what's going to happen. But what are you going to do, right? What are you going to
hit the fast forward button or not watch the goddamn show? I'll tell you right now, I am not watching SmackDown.
Well, no, I'm not either.
They're lucky I'm watching Raw at this point.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. You're going to watch Raw no matter what. You know what? That's a good question. That's a very good question. What would get you to not watch Raw anymore?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think whatever it is, they're heading down that path. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I know. That's very interesting. Maybe for another podcast.
I mean, definitely. These are all correctable things, but it's kind of like, after a while, enough is enough. Everyone has a tolerance. Everyone has a breaking point. And, they've taken a lot of longtime fans and turned them off of the product because of how they present it today. So, I guess that's a bridge I would have to cross when it gets there.
Yeah, same here. I mean, every time Big Show's on, I fast forward, but
I think he's going to be in a Fastlane 6-man with the Wyatts.
Oh boy,
God, I hope not. I do. I think they're going to set up like him. I think he's going to team with Kane. Oh my God. I hope that's not true. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I hope it's not true.
Big Show and Kane versus Eric Rowan and Braun Strowman.
I think they would have a partner, and it would be a 6-man, and they would face. I guess they would face Bray and Rowan and Harper, and then Strawn. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is a tag team. I don't know. All I know is I don't want to see the Big Show, and I don't want to see Kane. And if I never see them again, I will not be sad, and I will not shed a tear at all. Unlike what I would do if I watched a Charlotte and Alicia Fox match, and that would be crying because it is so goddamn bad.
Why? What happened to the feud with Charlotte and Sasha and Becky?
Well, as I said before, I was worried that Becky Lynch was a placeholder.
Well, she's
in
not.
This equation.
She's not. Because Sasha's not in the program either.
Sasha's going to be in the WrestleMania program.
It's going to be a triple threat. I have a good
with Daniel Bryan, with Nikki Bella. It only made sense in their eyes to get sympathy and have Brie mode and one final disaster of a match for her. So they've held off on it and just dropped it all of a sudden out of thin air with zero explanation. We're all idiots. They just, well, at least they must think that. And they moved on to this new program. We know it's whatever. Yeah, so we saw Charlotte and Alicia Fox in the meantime. This match was a disaster.
A little bit.
I'm convinced that Charlotte still does not know how to strike, and she should never do the spear ever again.
Oh, that was atrocious. I'm a Charlotte fan. That was horrible. That was so bad.
It was a half hug around the waist. That's what it turned into.
It's funny. She could do a spear fine in NXT. What happened?
All I can tell you on Charlotte's work, and it hasn't been good on the main roster. I got to be honest with you, and I mean her ring work. Her character has been good as a heel.
Yeah,
her in-ring work has not been good. All I can say is I'm not saying she's regressed, like actually regressed, but we've got the appearance of it. And the only thing I can point to is her matches in NXT were fewer and far between, and she had plenty of time to practice the match and choreograph it in advance with her opponent. Whereas on Raw, an hour before the show, she finds out she's facing Alicia Fox. They have to quickly figure something out, and it's more of a call it in the ring situation. And it's really challenging her ability to work in the ring, and I think it shows. And I think that's what's going on, but it's not good.
I liked her matches with Becky. You didn't? I thought they were pretty good.
Well, Becky's actually a good worker.
Well, yeah. But see, I'm a Charlotte fan. I am. Maybe it's who she's working with. Nikki Bella, she's improved, but she's still not great. Let's be honest, everybody. I don't care if she's had neck surgery or not. I hope she gets better, but she's not a good wrestler. That's my opinion. Brie Bella, I think she's a terrible wrestler. She's lucky she has a great husband like Daniel Bryan within her corner. Alicia Fox has one hell of a spinning powerbomb. Maybe the best in the business. Can't do anything else. But then you have her matches with Bayley, Sasha, and Becky, and you look at Natalya, and you look at Charlotte and be like, all right, it's pretty good. She's got it going on. You can only carry somebody so much, and I understand the whole it takes two to tango. Everyone's opinion of CM Punk, John Cena, those matches are one of the best of all time. But everyone said, well, look who Cena's facing off against. Yeah, I understand that, but it does take two to tango. So Charlotte cannot carry a match, but she can certainly wrestle one. I'll take the positive outlook, but this match with Alicia Fox was horrid. It really was. I was really disappointed watching it.
She set the women's wrestling movement back 20 years with that match.
Yeah, that was. I've seen Kelly wrestle better than that. I have, and that's saying something. She was very bad. Jillian Hall.
I've seen R. Kelly wrestle better than that. I've seen Kelly from Regis and Kelly or Michael and Kelly wrestle better than that. I've
hot.
seen a lot of Kellys wrestle better than that. That was bad.
Yeah, I don't know what she was doing. I really don't.
Not wrestling.
Yeah, well, clearly. Anyway, that was just a piece of shit. And I would like to know the logic behind the creative about how the Sasha, Becky, Charlotte storyline just ended completely without a notice. I would like to know. One day, Sasha's standing up to Charlotte, taking her title, kicking her ass. Next day, she's feuding with Naomi and Tamina.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
None of it matters. They're all just characters. You're being entertained.
Yeah, and then I watch Lucha Underground, and everyone's gunning for Mil Muertes. So, difference. Big difference. Big difference. So, all that transpired, and then we got to the retirement announcement by Daniel Bryan. I could talk about this for hours. In fact, I did last night on another podcast. So, I'll keep my thoughts brief.
Go for it.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, just that music, that initial ascension of the violins. It's gonna be really tough not knowing that he'll be back. I think it's been a lot easier that he hasn't wrestled a lot in the last 2 years. It's let me become accustomed to him not being around. But it was still that thought in the back of my head that he could someday return full time again. With Edge, it was a lot harder because he quit cold turkey, and that was just that I was bawling my eyes out. That was horrible. But for him, he talked about having brain lesions, concussion related seizures, 10 plus concussions in his life. He wants to have a family. He's only 34 years old. And, Brie Bella and him are a great couple, and she's a great person, and they deserve to be happy. So let him be happy in good health. We're selfish as fans. We want him to stay, but he needed to go. He needed to go. And that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up. It was really, when I think about wrestling moments on TV that captivate me in an emotional and special way, that is one of those standout moments for me.
Mm-hmm.
Personally. I think about that. I think about Ric Flair's retirement.
Shawn Michaels, Edge.
Not Shawn Michaels, not really. Edge, kind of. But there's been those rare few special moments. Daniel Bryan again at the Hall of Fame with the Connor speech. There's been a rare few moments that have captivated me in a special way like that, and this was one of them. It was truly a great retirement speech, and he did a great job, and he's so authentic. That's the thing I think that people really like about him. He's down to earth, and he's authentic. And when you listen to the wrestlers talk, nobody has a bad thing to say about him. And you've got people on social media from promotions across the country and the world saying nice things about Bryan Danielson. And to me, this one person has been able to bring the wrestling world together just by having traveled the world and having the reputation he does in his body of work. And as a person, he's just, it was great. So I really enjoyed it. But I think it also brought up some bigger picture questions for other people. And I think Daniel Bryan has changed the business.
Mm-hmm.
I think he changed the business in a way of the smaller guys getting in and getting over in WWE. And I think down the road, this is going to be one of those things where people will appreciate it even more as we get more and more into the future. We can look back on this and see the impact he's had with that. And also, I think with, unfortunately, the concussion stuff as well. And that's got to be a major talking point here. And I don't want to overdo it, but it just makes sense to talk about these things. You know, will other talents learn from his experience? Will they slow down on the high spots that aren't necessary? Will they stop the diving headbutts like he did off the top rope? You know, those are things that need to be asked. And if there's any wrestlers listening, you know, the spot fest stuff doesn't need to happen. Within the realm of the psychology of the match, you can do high spots that make sense. But just doing spot after spot with little psychology and killing your body, that's not helping you. Your body is how you get paid. And when you're injured and have to retire at 34, you can't do that anymore. So something to think about. The diving headbutts, I mean, the headbutts is a no-brainer. You had Harley Race had issues. Chris Benoit had issues. Daniel Bryan's had issues. A lot of people have had issues. They just simply should outlaw the move, in my opinion.
I think so too. I mean, but then again, there are people that say, well, they banished the curb stomp, which is avoidable to not have an injury. That's a whole other discussion. But yeah, it was very tough. And I like I said, wrestling fans are selfish. They never want your favorites to go, but they have to. And right now, simply because you know, Edge retired early, they found the spinal stenosis on time. He has a family. He's healthy and he's happy. And he's living out his dreams of being an actor, newfound dreams, that is. He was able to do that. But Daniel Bryan in 10 years will have a happy family. He'll be healthy, and he'll be okay to walk. In the NFL, it's happening. Calvin Johnson and Marshawn Lynch, two of the greatest to step foot on the field, and they're retiring at the age of 30. Why? Because they want to be healthy, and they made their money. They don't have to support anybody anymore, as far as having to struggle to do it. So I agree with the decision. I was asked last night how many people I think have concussions or have had concussions in the WWE. I say half of the entire roster. So yeah, I'm comfortable with half, maybe 60%. What do you think about that? How many do you think have had concussions or have one right now?
I think almost the entire roster has had a concussion,
possibly
at some point in their life. What I think the great question out of that is, how much of that talent on the roster today could pass the same test Daniel Bryan had to take, where they discovered the issues on the brain scan? How many talent today? Now, Bubba Ray has estimated he's had more concussions than Daniel Bryan said he did. So, why isn't he getting tested by WWE? There's a lot of questions out of this, but I would be willing to bet right now, this could open a huge can of worms, that there are talent on the roster right now who may not pass this brain scan.
No, and you're absolutely right. And before I get into that a little bit more, there was a quote that I found about the whole Punk and Bryan thing. It's that CM Punk opened the door for indie wrestlers, but Daniel Bryan made sure it would stay open. So I think that spoke huge about the whole situation in general. But yeah, and let's not forget, CM Punk made a difference by sitting on his couch in Chicago. He kind of did, because he talked shit on Dr. Amen, who, did a completely horrible job on Punk and his staph infection. And they sued Punk, realizing they fucked up. So they sued him on defamation. It's a complete defensive move on the WWE's part and the entire medical team. What if Bryan would have, had a seizure in the middle of the ring? Those seizures aren't drawn by exertion. They can happen at any time, anywhere. All right? Bryan could have had a seizure driving and died in a car accident. These things can happen. And the fact that he lied about the seizures, is not recommended by anybody, but that's what he decided to do. Now, they found, if I'm saying this correctly, they found brain lesions on the brain scan. That's very bad. And you're right. I bet you less than 75% of people would pass that test. I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. Let me say that again. 25% of people would pass that brain scan test. 25%. And now this is going to be what's it? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say they found that the small chronic lesion on the brain responsible for causing the seizures. And the big thing, too, is it revealed his brain function was actually slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah, and he wants to be a
That's
dad
not good.
and a husband. That can't happen. It just can't happen. Why do you think Vince McMahon didn't want Kurt Angle to come into the WWE? Because of all of his health problems? Absolutely.
There's no way Angle's passing that medical. There's a chance in hell.
No. Well, now, what do you think Shinsuke Nakamura? What if they put him on the Bryan? I don't know if he's had concussions or not, but you never know.
Well, he's had nerve damage or those problems in his arm, so that's going to be interesting. He's supposed to be doing his testing. I think it's this week. I don't know. There's no word that's come out. I mean, they've signed people before that didn't pass the medical, and
Willie Mack being one of them.
Willie Mack, Nigel McGuinness. Yeah, I mean, there's been others too that didn't pass the medical and they couldn't sign him even though they had been offered the deal. I hope everything works out for Nakamura, obviously, but I hope everybody can learn from this. I mean, if you didn't see the ESPN piece on Daniel Bryan, the interview, you've got to do it.
I still need to watch it myself.
He's had 10 documented concussions.
Documented. That's a key
Right.
word, everybody.
Likely, everybody understands he's likely had more based on the brain scan. But, it's also hopefully a learning point for wrestlers. He hid this stuff, and hopefully they'll be more willing to share as we learn more about this and how to treat it. But, God, I mean, this is yeah. And then you had TNA, just the total fucking worst. I mean, how tone deaf can you get? Right after this announcement, okay, the next day on Impact Wrestling, you have a match between Drew Galloway and Kurt Angle. Okay. And in this match, which was already pre-recorded, Kurt Angle actually suffered a head first blow and was believed to have a concussion from this move Drew Galloway did. And so what did they do? The day after the Daniel Bryan and all of this stuff comes out, in hell, the SportsCenter stuff that happened on Tuesday, it's the same day as that interview where SportsCenter's talking about the concussions. And TNA goes on social media and post a gif of this same move where Kurt Angle got a potential fucking concussion and talked about how great it was. How tone deaf can you be?
Well, I think they're.
I mean, they knew this was taped in advance. They already knew that this was an injury to Angle. They already knew what happened because of this move, and they posted it anyway. Fucking bunch of morons.
I just saw it right now. Wow. That's a reverse Alabama slam right on his head.
Yes. Yep, and you could see he lands head first.
Yeah.
He had to be checked out after they thought he had a bad concussion. He was pretty out of it. And then they let him fucking wrestle again. Anyway.
It's stupid. They're fucking dumb. All right, so last but not least, that concussion thing can be talked about for days on end. But we move on to Titus O'Neil and talk about some bullshit. Some bullshit this is. We have an update to what the original story was. So let's talk about the original story. Brad, I'll let you take this one.
So the original story, for those who weren't aware, they had the Daniel Bryan celebration. They had about another 5 minutes of it exclusively on the WWE Network after Raw went off the air. And during that, Daniel Bryan, he makes his way into the back, and immediately following that, Vince McMahon starts walking towards the back as well. And obviously the other talent would have followed suit soon after. As he's going to walk back, Titus O'Neil grabs his arm and pulls him in towards him forcefully. And it appears Vince McMahon shoves Titus away and then turns around. And if you look really close, you see Triple H give the stink eye to Titus. And that's what happened. There's videos of it online. If you didn't see it, because they're actually editing out that part from the piece that was on the network, I understand.
And YouTube.
Yeah, and YouTube. And so, of course, now, because of this, it was announced today, as we record this on Wednesday, February 10th, that Titus O'Neil has been suspended for unprofessional conduct up to 90 days.
Yeah, well, the update to that is that WrestleZone was reporting that Titus O'Neil's suspension has been moved down to 60 days. Whether that's true or not, have you heard anything otherwise?
I have not.
Okay. It's been reduced to 60 days. And the backstage news on it now was that Titus was basically the guinea pig to set a statement to all the wrestlers in the back that they want to be a professional organization and not silly, as I think is the best way to actually put it. So Titus was used as an example, and, well, what do you know? And Titus wasn't grabbing him to be a dick. He was grabbing him to play around. He was laughing the whole time. So I don't understand why this is happening. It's a joke. It's an absolute absurd joke. And honestly, Vince can't be that like that. Who gives a shit?
It's a weird situation, okay? So
Is it really? So if I playfully grab you and it's a joke that everyone's like in a good mood. Bryan had a hell of a retirement speech. Like the emotion in the room is not bad per se. Like nobody died. All right, he's retiring, and it was a celebration. And this was good.
Look at it this way. Take off your fan goggles, okay? And let's pretend you're at work, okay? You work for a company with, let's say, 500 employees. You're in the corporate office environment. You work for a publicly traded company, a corporation, and the CEO walks by. You are the worker bee. And as he walks by you, you grab his arm and pull him in towards you, joking around. Now, what do you think is going to happen to you in that environment as an employee?
It depends.
Well, you're likely going to be fired. I can tell you based on my experience in corporate America. Now, that is a very real possibility in the real world. But WWE is also a very weird environment for what is a corporation. They kind of want to have it both ways. So that kind of thing wouldn't be uncommon. I mean, yesteryear, when Vince is 70 now, but before then, he's tried to take down Kurt Angle with a single leg takedown. He's 70 now. It's different.
Yeah.
And they've evolved and they're publicly traded and blah, blah, blah. I think the biggest problem with this was he did it. It was a poor judgment because he did it on camera during the Daniel Bryan stuff. You be respectful. Let Daniel have his moment. And once that is all done, once the cameras are off, once Daniel's gone, then you can horseplay if you want, if that's what they allow. That's my take on it. I understand them doing something. I don't think Titus had any ill will at all. It's just an unfortunate thing that hopefully he'll just kind of learn from, and everybody can move on. And he did post something on social media referencing Jesus, blah, 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 whatever, So I think everybody's going to move on. It won't be a huge deal. Let's be honest. They weren't going to do anything with him anyway. The guy was on a 19-match winning streak, and nobody mentioned it once.
So wins and losses don't matter.
Yeah. Shocking, I know, right?
Road Dog's right.
Yeah, he beat Stardust 19 times in a row. No, I'm sure there's one or two other jobbers.
Tyler Breeze.
So he can take this. He can get some rest. He can spend time with his family. he can continue doing the charitable stuff he's doing, and we can all move on. But it is what it is. I understand them doing something about it. But, it's not the end of the world by any means.
Well, hey, breaking news, Chris Christie is no longer running for president. All right, anyway, so, I think we should...
Was he ever running for anything? Let's be honest. Have you seen the guy? Come on.
maybe for a new Subway sandwich that's $6 now. $6 foot long doesn't have the right ring to it. So let's start a new segment, and I'm faux pas stealing this from somebody else, but I think it's called what did we learn this week? And honestly, we can't really steal that. Everyone does this, so shit, I don't care. I did get the. Should I just for copyright reasons say where I got the idea?
What are you talking? It's our idea. What are you talking about?
Well, no, really.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I stole it from somebody else.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I'm admitting I did. I'm admitting
it's our idea. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my god! All right. Well, if they get pissed at me, it's your fault. I got it from the Wrestling Mayhem show, but I think it's important that because I thought it was a really good idea to start a What We Learned segment. So, Brad, what did we learn from wrestling this week?
Well, we learned if you're injured, get treatment. Be honest with yourself and your employer. We learned that you can have a long, sustained, successful career without killing yourself in the ring and essentially debilitating your brain. I think we learned that you don't cross the boss. And I think we learned that the guy in charge of SmackDown doesn't know how to book a goddamn wrestling show.
No, and I have to agree with all of those. It's funny when I wrote an article for the Inquisitor about this story. He commented below, "Ha! A wrestling guy doesn't know how to book wrestling." Ha! And I wanted to be like, "Yeah, that's pretty much it." Hit the nail right on the head. Brad, where can we find you online?
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh dear Lord!
At the Brad Shepard, SHEPARD. You'll get lots of tweets from me. You may like some, you may not. I don't really care. Just follow me, mute me, block me, whatever you want to do. I don't really care.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I guess that's what you should get out of all of this. I don't really care. At the Brad Shepard.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at John Fisher IQ and on Facebook at John Fisher Wrestling News Hub. I'm doing more videos, and I think I'm pretty good, so why not give it a listen or even a watch? We should be having more interviews with other folks in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. And we're still in the process of getting on iTunes. I know it's all my fault, but life has come first, and I'm sorry for that.
Life has come first, and John, not at all.
Exactly. So, and I think it's only fitting that we go out the only way that we know how. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you then. And for Daniel Bryan, be well, my friend. Be well.